We were called to assist an ambulance at an address because they were struggling with a woman who had an apparent seizure. We got there, and she's this skinny little Singaporean lady who's being held down on the floor by two paramedics. She's hissing and struggling and repeatedly trying to bite them. Her eyes are all black and red, no white. It took me, my partner, and 3 paramedics to hold her down. Her strength was unreal. All the time, she's struggling and trying to bite us, with veins almost popping out of her neck. She's looking past us at the corner of the room, screaming at something that isn't there, telling it not to kill her and us. Her husband, who seems weirdly unfazed by the whole thing, tells us this has been happening since she last went to Singapore and got sick after visiting a holy site. Usually her sister has to stop it by putting this powder on her forehead in a cross, but unfortunately she's out of the country. In the end, she was taken by the paramedics to the hospital for a mental health assessment. I often wonder what the outcome was, but unfortunately I have no way of finding out. My friend is a cop in a major Canadian city. One night, we were supposed to go out after his shift. He decided to pick me up in his cop car since he had almost finished his shift and was just going to drop the car back at the depot. On the way, though, he got a call that someone was complaining about noises coming from their basement that sounded like a person, so he decided to make that his last stop. I was told to wait in the car while he talked with the homeowner and checked it out. He was gone for about half an hour before he came back and had this terrified face on him. Apparently, the homeowner was hearing loud thuds from his basement for a couple of weeks, but on the day of the call, they were really loud. He had a walk-in basement, so he thought maybe someone had broken in. My friend goes to the basement to check it out with the homeowner. It's all dark, and the lights need to be turned on from the electrical panel. They get to the panel, and my friend says he saw something in the corner of his eye. He turns around, and at the end of a hallway that leads to a cold storage, he sees a guy facing the door of the cold storage, just standing there. The guy was tall with long hair and seemed to be wearing nothing. He yells at the guy to turn around, but he doesn't. The homeowner sees him too and is really scared. My friend asks the guy to turn around once more before hitting the switch for the lights, and the guy at the cold storage just disappears when the lights come on. My friend swore that he searched every inch of that basement and could not find anyone else. The homeowner is shaken up and says he's going to stay with a friend for a night, and my friend calls another cop to surveil the house to see if anyone tries to enter the main house or basement. Not sure what happened after, but my friend swears he saw someone there. My dad used to work as a correctional officer at Goulburn Jail in Australia, which is probably one of the oldest prisons there. He said that the whole place was creepy, and it did not help that some of the inmates at the time included the notorious serial killer Ivan Milat. The movie Wolf Creek was based on him. Anyway, the first thing he noticed was that dogs would outright refuse to enter the prison. He said they couldn't get them past the gate, no matter how hard they tried. But the creepiest occurrence was one night when they heard the sound of running booted footsteps. Everyone was in their cell, so they couldn't figure out what was causing it. The next thing they saw was all the doors of the open and unoccupied cells on the top floor were banged shut, one after the other with loud clangs. Then they see the source of the running noise. Now my dad swears this is what he and his colleagues saw. Apparently, they looked up and saw what looked like disembodied hobnail boots run down the aisle right over their heads, banging as they went. Dad decided to stop working in the prison not long after this. I'm a police officer from Brazil. Some years ago, there was a riot in a penitentiary and almost 30 inmates were killed. This year, I went there for some court bureaucratic proceedings. When I was talking to the director of the penitentiary, he asked me if I wanted to see something crazy. He told me their surveillance camera caught something weird and would like my opinion on it. I got curious and watched. It's footage of a guy who entered the files room at around 2 a.m. a few days before my visit. He went to the center of this room and he started laughing compulsively. The security camera recorded audio, and I thought the laugh was loud, maniacal, and seemed painful. This went on for almost a full minute. Then the guy stopped laughing and exited the room in the same direction he went in. Then the penitentiary director asked me what was wrong. I pointed out that security was compromised. If an inmate was able to invade that room so easily, he could walk freely inside the penitentiary. I also remarked that the person in the video might be mentally unsound or under the influence of drugs. Then, the director told me that the invader appeared on camera from the right. But there's no door or window on the right wall of this room. Also, their alarms are working, but these did not ring that night. The penitentiary staff claimed to know the guy caught on video. The face was blurry, but the tattoos on his body were unmistakable. The director showed me the file of the invader. His description matches a convict who was beheaded during the last riot. It was my second year as an Oregon State Trooper. As I was riding in the cop car with my partner, a dispatch call came through about a man holding a gun to a woman's head, so we immediately drove to the location. When we got there was a woman crying and repeating over and over, "He shot me! He shot me!" "He didn't shoot you. You're okay," we told her, but she kept on about it. We asked her if she had any family around where she could go and stay, and she said no. She wouldn't allow us to take her anywhere else, so after a while we asked if she would be all right on her own. She said yes. Since the man in question was never seen, we left the scene. At the end of our shift, we told the other dispatchers and officers about the weird call, so one of them decided to look the woman up, and his face went pale. It turns out that the woman had died by the hands of her husband, who shot her in the head 6 years prior to our encounter. The description of the woman and her name matches the reports. The husband was never caught, so we decided to move on and keep quiet about what we found out. 2 years after the incident, I was training a rookie cop when a call came in from the same house. It was from the same woman, so I had to head out there and find out what was really going on. When we got there, she was in front of the house, and our radios strangely started to crackle as we approached her. She simply pointed to the door and said, "He's in there." We pulled out guns and found a man inside the house, the same man who had shot the woman before. When we went out, she was no longer there. The man got 20 years for her murder, and we never heard another call from that house again. This story still haunts me, and I ask myself, was it a coincidence that we found the man? Or was it her pointing us to her killer? I guess she finally found peace. I hear the other guy on my beat get dispatched to a well-being check of an elderly lady. After a few minutes, the guy asks for a supervisor. A few minutes later, they dispatched me to the lady's house. I get there, and the supervisor asks me to climb in through an unsecured window at the back of the house because I'm smaller. I get to the window and tell it's to the bedroom. I can hear a loud television on in another room. I yell out, "Police! Does anyone need help?" as I climb in through the window. I hear an old raspy voice call, "Here!" I ran out of the bedroom and down the hall to where I heard the voice call. From the living room, I see a lady lying face down in the dining room area. I call out for her, "Ma'am, did you fall? Where are you hurt?" I run to her, but she is not moving. I touch her hand, and it is ice cold. She's been dead for a few days. I unlock the door and let the supervisor and another officer in. I told them I heard a voice, and we needed to check the whole house. No one else was in there. I know the TV was on, but I could tell it was the news and heard the voice over it. Who the hell did I hear? I have a family member who works in narcotics in the California desert. He told me this story about the ghost car. He was chasing someone on a major highway with lights, sirens and everything. The guy he was chasing turns off his lights, swerves into the desert, and just disappears. He called out for another officer to help him find the missing car. The tracks lead into the desert for a short while, but then the tracks suddenly disappear. They had a few officers poking around the area, but nothing ever came of it. Never found the car. Strangely enough, this isn't the first time nor the last time this has happened. Ghost cars are apparently pretty common among Mexican drug gangs. They've theorized that there's some kind of hidden underground drug lair out there somewhere, but nobody's ever found anything.